What's up, Bulldogs? All right, today I thought I would talk about an advanced topic in emotional mastery. This is something that I have talked about before in terms of the three levels of emotional mastery, right? So we talked about these three levels. If you want a refresher on this, just real quickly, the three levels, and there's a whole video on this you can check out, are the first level, which is wearing your heart on your sleeve. Okay, that's when your heart is open, but you are weak and you're attached. Okay. The second level is emotional numbness, zombie mode, where your heart is closed and you are non attached. So you've learned some non attachment, which to a degree is good. And the third level is what I call feel the pain and keep on walking. That's where your heart is reopened again. So you're experiencing emotion, life, feeling, and you're still non-attached, so it does not influence your actions. You're able to still act in the way that you want to act without it interfering. So you're actually feeling the pain, right? You're not feeling the pain like you were at level 2, but you're still taking action. You're not letting it stop you. Whereas in the first level, when you felt the pain, it crippled you. You collapsed on the ground. You cried. You acted like a baby. You used that emotion to fuel anger or disappointment or sadness and took it out on other people or shared that with other people, expressed that, basically blew up all over them, right? Whether it be in a anger or in a just a sadness and desperation way, right? And so what I want to talk about is that third level, right? And really advancing in that third level, because that third level, at a surface level, it seems relatively easy, right? You just allow yourself to feel the pain, but you keep on moving. But it's something actually even that I have been struggling with, is I've realized that I still have a weakness in that area, in the sense that when I am, well, I'll say this, is that a majority of people cannot affect me because I have a non-attachment. But there are certain relationships that I have in my life where there is a degree of, I won't say necessarily attachment, but there is more of that element of attachment. And in those circumstances, let me put it this way: in circumstances where I'm more vulnerable, more open, then I'm more inclined to being hurt. And that hurt is a deeper hurt. And in those circumstances, what I will find is that my heart will tend to close, right? And what do I mean by open heart and closed heart? It simply means this, is that when your heart is open, you are expressing and letting love flow through you. When your heart is closed, you are doing the opposite. You're blocking that energy, blocking that love. And anger, frustration, that's where you say nasty things, where you cut people off, where you're cold, where you're distant. Those things are are the symptoms of a closed heart, right? Because you're in that pain, right? And you're living in that pain. And so what I have found is that it's something that I need to work on, and I've been working on. And again, I don't want to say that that I haven't, that I'm totally screwing up in this area, but I've made improvements in this, and I'm still working on it. But it just was revealed to me as somewhat of a weakness that I have, and I thought I would share that with you because it's something that I think is worth working on and will greatly improve your relationships and also just your well-being, right? And so what does this look like practical, in practical terms, right? It looks like this. It looks like when, let's say that someone is saying something that you don't want to hear, that is accusatory of you, that's hurting you in some way, not the thing that you want to hear. Instead of getting defensive, instead of thinking about how they're so wrong about you, or being shocked by that they would act this way, or treat you this way, you just simply remain completely loving in that moment, and just hear what they have to say, not trying to shield yourself from it, right? It becomes sort of this non self-protection, which you might think that you need to protect yourself, but the need to protect yourself is actually a sign of weakness, that comes from weakness, right? The stronger you are, the more that you don't need to protect yourself, and you allow yourself to feel those things. And even as you are in that experience and someone is saying something that, again, it might not be something nasty or mean, it might just be something that you don't want to hear, you feel the pain. You feel the pain of that. You feel the hurt of that, but you remain open, meaning that you still act in a loving way, and you still communicate in a loving way and you don't close up. Because what's going to happen is the natural reaction, right? If I were to hit you, okay, if I were to punch you, the natural reaction would be to move away, to cover yourself, to block, to get away from that. And that's how we act emotionally as well, right? If I were to punch you emotionally, your natural reaction would be to close up, to not allow that, to not open your stance and not allow that vulnerability to close up the heart so that you can't be hurt again. Because as soon as you close that heart, you harden that heart against someone, then their next punch, it doesn't hurt as much, right? It doesn't feel as painful because you have closed up in that case. And so what I'm saying is that if you really want to reach this higher level of emotional mastery, you have to remain open in that. And again, it makes you come across as unaffected, but you still care, right? Someone might even be able to see the pain in your eyes, but they can also see the love in your eyes. And that it's a struggle. It is a very, very hard thing to do. And you constantly have to remind yourself, because when you get into these situations, when you get into these circumstances where someone is hurting you, the only thing you can think about is defending yourself. The only thing you can think about is closing up. And you might even say, and this is something that I've had as a justification in my head, is like, it's a misunderstanding, right? And I need to correct misunderstandings, because if someone is saying something about me or to me, and it's based off of misunderstanding, they're misjudging me, then the problem is that, yeah, I get that I should be open and whatnot, but it's based on a misunderstanding. So I need to correct them so they understand the real truth, and then we can get to the matter. But the problem with doing that is that in trying to correct that misunderstanding, you actually create a second vulnerability, because as you are trying to explain yourself, you're going to inevitably be met with a harsher rejection. And the reason why is because what you don't realize when that is happening is that you are causing a harm to the person who is expressing towards you, right? And so if someone is saying something to you, and again, it might not be the kindest thing, it might not be the thing that you want to hear, and then you create some kind of defensiveness or excuse, or you try to explain away what is happening, they actually feel hurt by that, right? Even if it's unjustly so. This is how emotions work. This is how humans work. And so when you do that, you are almost always going to be met with a negative response to your justification or defensiveness, right? And in fact, if you think about this, right, I've talked about this before, about what constitutes a good apology, right? And a good apology has three components, right? It's one, to acknowledge what's wrong, acknowledge how you made the other person feel. And the third one is to make a restitution for that. And so an apology that doesn't have those three elements isn't a good apology. But if someone's apologized to you before, and in their apology, they explain their actions or they justify their actions, how much does that take away from the apology? Right? It takes a lot away. It doesn't feel like an apology, right? The best apology is when someone says, I'm sorry I did this. I was completely wrong, right? And sometimes they might not even be completely wrong. But if someone really wants to apologize, they will take full accountability for their actions, right? Even for the unintentional actions that occurred, or even the misunderstanding of those actions, they don't feel the need to justify where they are based on the actual truth at this point. Now, at the future and in the future or later, of course they could explain those things, or that conversation could be had, but it's something to keep in mind, right? And so the reason why I'm saying this is because you have to understand that any amount of you justifying, trying to explain away, trying to get someone to understand you in those moments is going to cause you to close your heart, right? You have to fully accept, allow whatever's coming in to come in. And if you're in a situation, in a relationship with a person who's constantly, where you're opening yourself and being vulnerable and opening your heart, and when you remain in that state, that they're still blasting you, and they continue to do that, then it's probably a relationship that you shouldn't be in. But what you'll find is that even the hardest of hard people, even the harshest person, when you respond to criticism, to whatever that hurt is that they're inflicting upon you, intentional or not, but when you respond to that with love and openness, it's very, very difficult for someone to continue to to bite into you, right? They're probably going to stop. They're probably going to feel a lot better, honestly, because sometimes it is, think about how frustrating it is also when you want to express something, right? When someone's upset you and you express that to them, and they won't just accept that thing, right? They have some kind of justification. They have some kind of a reason for that, or they're trying to get you to understand something instead of just taking it, right? And again, it's not to say that you should be exploding on people, or that you should be dumping your emotions onto people, or attacking people, or harming people. But what I'm saying is that in those moments, all that you want is to just get them to understand that feeling that you have, justified or not, right? And you don't want a justification for it. So this is a hard thing, right? Like I said, it's something that I've been working on as I've been seeing myself and realizing that, look, even though you're a really rational guy, even though you're very stoic and you have a high degree of control over your emotions, there are moments where you are in a moment of pain where you're not being mean, you're not being nasty, right? But you're not being loving. And so that's really what is the challenge, right? Is how can you, in those moments, still be loving when you feel like you're under attack? That's the really, really big challenge, because it's not good enough to just not attack someone. It's not good enough to just not be mean or hostile, or even to completely shut down. It requires to actually accept fully, right? And this comes down to a more important concept, like a deeper principle of this idea of accepting energy. Like whatever you block, right? You've heard whatever you resist persists. And so if you block an energy that's coming towards you, you're going to actually strengthen that energy. It's going to be magnified. But if you let that energy come and maybe you deflect that energy. We talked about this in another video about negativity. Like, how do you handle negativity, right? You allow it and you don't try to block the person being negative, but then you redirect that into a positive, right? You're converting that energy as it comes in. And you can do this exact same thing here in this scenario where someone is saying something that you don't like, that maybe is hurtful to you, intentional or not. You can take all of that in, not block any of that, accept it fully, and then respond in love. And if you do that, what you're going to do is you're going to start to cycle love through that loop. There's an energy loop that's going between you and a person when you're having this kind of conversation. And if you're blocking it, it's just going to build up, and it's just going to create more negative energy, and you have to block it with negative energy. You see what I'm saying? But if you can flow it through with a love, positive energy. All right. Now I know that, it's a little far out there, but for those of you guys that are really working on this, I think you'll get this. You'll see what the next step is. And if you're still at the lower levels of level one, that's fine. Like I think you can. I was talking about this on one of the coaching calls from the Bulldog Mindset membership, which we do a monthly group coaching call. If you want to join that, check it out. There's a link down below. But we're talking about how you could probably go from level 1 to level 3. I don't think you need to visit level 2 if you become aware enough, right? But it's hard. It's not easy to do, and it's something that you're going to work on. But you'll find that as you're more at level 3, that instead of being reactive, you'll have responses, right? You'll still feel emotions, which you should, right? That's not the idea of stoicism, is to get rid of emotion. It's instead to make it so that there's less negative emotions, things hit you less, and the ones that you do feel, they do not influence your actions. Instead, you're able to absorb them, you're able to feel them, you're able to process those emotions, but then you're still able to act in the way that you want, right? And if we think about it, what is the way that we always want to act? We always want to act in a way of love, right? Now, you might disagree with that, but that is a fundamental truth, is that love is the greatest gift that you have as a man, right? And acting out of love is always the correct action. If you're acting in a way that's not out of love, which again, believe me, I'm guilty of this plenty of times, then you're not acting in the correct way. To some degree, intrinsically, we know this to be true, right? So, that's what I have for you today. Like I said, if you haven't joined the Bulldog Mindset membership, I'd highly encourage you to do so. It's a great group of guys that are working on improving and developing themselves. I'm in there talking to you guys as well. And I want to get a lot of questions for video content from there. So if you got some questions and stuff, ask it in there. I'll try to help you out. Other people will try to help you out as well. And I'll see you tomorrow.